Oh,
And
okay.
I just wanted to say that my summary um, is pages 194. Well, what I did was I made reference to the pages according to the text. So at any given time, if you want, I can tell you what pages they are. Okay.
Good.
Because
Yeah,
I've done it all in written form. So,
great.
okay. Um, so if you want, I can start.
Please.
Okay. All right. Um, Lecture 8, Seek Happiness from Within. We start with a message from Khenpo Sodargye. Khenpo Sodargye emphasizes that these powerful instructions are desperately needed by society to cope with their mental afflictions more than ever, as prophesied by Tenpe Nyima 100 years ago. These powerful instructions being the best medication for their well-being. Happiness is determined by the mind. Whether we see something as pleasant or unpleasant comes down to how it is perceived by the mind. This is normally determined by the habit of perceiving a set of circumstances as a problem and a cause of suffering, or beneficial as a cause of happiness, or pleasant or unpleasant based on preferred environmental circumstances and our particular attitude towards them. These could be deep-set personal preferences that cause us happiness or suffering. How we perceive things is closely related to the habitual tendencies of our individual mind. We can choose to regard happiness as determined by our external objects and situations, or we can reconsider our habitual way of thinking and conclude that external things and circumstances are nothing more than minor factors affecting our feelings, while the true determining factor is our own thinking. If we train our mind to see suffering as beneficial and pleasant, this attitude can help us to embrace suffering instead of fearing it. Although this teaching can be regarded as simplistic and easy to follow, it reveals the essential secret of our mind on a phenomenal level and can only be obtained through the transmission of our lineage masters. It must be regarded as a golden key unlocking the amazing treasury of our mind as taught in Mahayana Buddhism. We must deeply reflect on its meaning and apply the instructions through actual daily practice. I state that wisdom is knowledge applied. Doing so can ease our suffering and bring us happiness, enlightenment, and peace. For the most part, life experiences have enforced our inherent afflictive emotions, which is the source of our suffering. On the other hand, we learn from this text that suffering and happiness is never determined by external things. And as long as we watch over and watch our minds primarily as taught by the teaching, we will bring fundamental change to our life to build up and sustain our happiness and well-being. This must be regarded as a profound pith instruction to benefit us and ultimately all sentient beings. And as we refer to page 197, there are 7 types of benefits of transforming suffering. It is worth spending time on this, I think. Number 1 is peacefulness. If our mind is disciplined and under control, and we truly understand that all external things are projections of our own mind, and we train our minds to be free of the 4 extremes, that's being, non-being, duality, being and not being. There are many examples of the 4 extremes. And there's also 8 elaborations: arising, ceasing, being non-existent, being permanent, coming, going, being multiple, and being single. Our minds will be tamed and pliable and will remain pure and serene. So that was number 1, peacefulness. Number 2, be open. Accept and adapt to all circumstances and environments. Be flexible as defined in the posted text and the poem of Zen master woman Hui Kai. A mind free of afflictions and delusions views every circumstances as the best there is. And 3, to me, this relates closely to the second one. in addition to compassion and empathy for people and the absence of the traits of the ego self. So number 2 and number 3 are very closely related. Number 4, intuitively transforming suffering into happiness and enlightenment through practice results in an attitude of courage and confidence in all circumstances we encounter. We view every interaction as it truly is, rather than creating an illusion of fear and distrust. Remaining courageous and calm. We are the screenwriter, the director, and actor to our version of reality. The power of our mind through the control of our perceptions. And number 5 and 6, by viewing suffering as beneficial, nothing seems to be a big deal. That would be in page 201. Avoid being vulnerable and sensitive. This feeling is fueled by the false sense of entitlement to the self of deserving better than the circumstances and annoyances that we are dealt with from time to time, rather than accepting them as an opportunity for spiritual growth. This attitude only serves as a hindrance to our Dharma practice. The wisdom of transformation helps us to transcend all negativities. And lastly, 7, skilled in this practice, we will always experience happiness and inner peace. Lastly, we must be aware of the 5 degenerations. This is referred to as the age of degeneration, degeneration of disturbing thoughts, lifespan, time, view, and sentient beings are tormented by natural disasters, disease, and famine. It is necessary to have a strong mind and to wear the armor of transforming suffering to advance our spiritual journey. Now, according to page 203, misfortunes vanish on their own. When we are no longer tormented by the suffering of anxiety and irritation, all kinds of suffering eventually fades away, and illness will vanish on its own, including the negative influences of Mara, which is associated with death, rebirth, and desire. The forces in opposition to enlightenment will become powerless and vanish on their own. The wheel of constant happiness turns, according to page 205. We need to take heed of the 4 elements of the body. It would be earth, wind, water, and fire. If you are happy and content about everything, then your mind will not be disturbed. The subtle wind energy within your mind will not be disturbed. Therefore, all the other elements of the body will not be disturbed either. As a result, your mind will in turn not be disturbed. It goes full circle as the wheel of constant happiness turns. The 4 elements of the body will remain balanced when our mood is consistent. We will feel calm and happy. So the best way to avoid getting old quickly or becoming unhealthy is to develop a good mentality and integrate the Dharma into our minds. The first step to eradicating our mental afflictions and achieving a mental state of happiness and contentment is to understand the teachings literally and easily identifying an improper thought and a deluded mindset as the real cause of all our physical and mental disorders. In order to gain the power to eliminate these afflictions, we must personally follow the Dharma path and to practice these methods until the teaching fully emerges into our minds and rids us of mental afflictions. And as referred on page 209, as the metaphors contained in the text indicate, when the mind is in a state of vulnerability or worry, unfavorable things will happen. External things are merely the manifestations of the mind. The more your mind fabricates something, the more possible it is that such things will appear in front of you. Negative thoughts create opportunities for Maras to do something bad to you. The Prajnaparamita Sutra says that those that are frail and indecisive are susceptible to the harm of mountain spirits and earth spirits. Practitioners who are weak and feeble-hearted are easily defeated by minor setbacks because they perceive them as powerful over them. They make matters worse by adopting a destructive attitude using self-defeating words and phrases that make them victims of negative spirits. We should be courageous in our Dharma practice and confident and strong-minded in our lives to avoid the infiltration of evil spirits. As referred to in page 210, the wise seek happiness from within. Understanding that happiness comes entirely within themselves and not from anything external causes you to realize that nobody or anything can do you any harm. You will always be free and in control. Happiness comes from a contented mind. This state of mind gives you happiness. Lacking it makes happiness unreachable. How we discern happiness is suffering. According to Buddhist logic, happiness is physical pleasure combined with mental pleasure, which can only be discerned by the mental consciousness. Therefore, the sensations of pleasure and displeasure depend entirely on our conceptual mind. Contentment and happiness does not depend on your physical external circumstances. It is a feeling when one is free of all desires. Understanding that happiness only comes within and adapting that mindset habitually, you can accept that whatever happens or whatever is assigned to you and develop the ability to get along with everyone and face any situation calmly. And in reference to page 213, Bodhisattvas of the first bhumi and above realize a state of meditative stabilization. With this realization, they are happy with or under any circumstances. With this realization, they are happy under any circumstances. When enduring great pain and suffering, they never abandon the three jewels. Therefore, they take delight in physical pain as it is endured for the sake of the three jewels. Jetsun Milarepa said, "When all delusions cease, the mind abides in happiness. I'm not unhappy. Happiness is what I am. With this happy mind, all things are happy, and I feel happy with everything, as long as it is beneficial for all beings." There's a note for discussion that I wanted to ask you about this. Milarepa has achieved a state of everlasting happiness. He states he is happy. He feels happy in everything. And yet, in the next section, he refers to my state of mind may fluctuate due to circumstances. Like that, I don't quite understand. If his reality and his state of mind is happiness, then how does it fluctuate due to circumstances? I'm not quite sure.
Point it out to me where that next saying is.
That is on page 214, 215, I believe. But that's irrelevant.
Okay.
He says, my state of mind may fluctuate due to circumstances, but my resolution to stay calm and benefit sentient beings will not change. Right, so I think that's the point. So,
Okay.
yeah. On page 216, it states, "It is foolish to seek happiness from external objects or circumstances. In doing so, you're not in control. It's all in others' hands. As a result, we are never able to attain true happiness. When people feel that others have failed them, they have become disappointed and often cause others to suffer by reflecting on self-entitlement rather than love, compassion, and empathy." I just feel through my own experience. I mean, that's what I've concluded that my suffering comes from is the feeling of self-entitlement. I'm not getting what I expected in return. So I'm not experiencing love, compassion, and empathy as I should. Happiness is fragile when it is based on the external world. The happiness that occurs is merely temporary and transient. The outcome will leave you miserable. And then as referred to page 221, the essence of 100 instructions, the section and root text specifies. Now again, Fang and Oliver, I may need your clarification on this. I read through this section, and this section and the root implies hard advice, pacifying tradition, and it mentions the general outline of how to accept suffering based on the noble Santideva. So I may have missed out, or I may have misinterpreted the explanation of the hard advice and pacifying tradition. I think it's really important simply because it says that without them, we will never achieve true happiness, right? Is that specified here, or is it something that I can refer to elsewhere? Heart advice and pacifying tradition.
Yeah, I think I would need to go through it again also. So
Okay.
my reading was a little bit of skimming. I need to know what the heart device is.
Yeah, it's extremely important
I know
because, yeah.
Maybe
Right,
after we leave this part to discussion, so I also have
okay,
time to look at it.
excellent. I thought I would bring that up. You know, just thank you for that. Sentadeva's texts primarily explore the requirements and tradition to become bodhisattvas. A bodhisattva being an awakening being, aiming to become Buddha, which is the awakened one. So, you know, that's a distinction that I, came to, is bodhisattva being the awakening being, and then Buddha being the ultimate awakened one. Pith instruction, according to this is page 222 now. Pith instruction of Tenpe Nyima Rinpoche. It is imperative to gain a meaningful understanding of these pith instructions. Otherwise, our intention may be to benefit others when we are happy, but cannot maintain happiness when negative emotions or circumstances occur. The pith instructions mentioned are based on the teachings of Tenpe Nyima Rinpoche, Shantideva, in the way of the Bodhisattva, Lord Atisha, Kunshin Longchenpa, and Ju Mipham Rinpoche. These lessons should be readily available as a reference of taking suffering as a path to enlightenment, just like medicine that you always carry with you. And according to page 223, transforming suffering through absolute truth. The refutation of production from the four extremes, self, other, both, and neither. Production cannot be established as occurring in any of these four possible ways. Now, I wasn't familiar of the four extremes, so I looked them up and came to this conclusion. Four extremes would be several causes producing a single result, several causes producing several results, a single cause producing several results, and a single cause producing a single result. And then, of course, refutation, the meaning of that would be proving a theory to be wrong. The mind is drawn towards emptiness. Now you can overcome suffering by viewing it as unreal and nothing but a label. And so if you make reference to page 224, nothing is produced from itself. Nothing is produced from something else. Nothing is produced from both itself or any other, and nothing is produced without a cause. Therefore, there is no phenomena that has ever arisen. There is no harmful circumstances in suffering. In the text, there's reference to some things that I decided to make, that I thought was worth noting. One would be the root stanzas of the Middle Way. Secondly, their introduction to the Middle Way. Thirdly, Zen Master Yongming Yangsho. He wrote Mind Mirror. The adornment of the Middle Way, 6 stanzas of reasoning, 60 stanzas of reasoning, 70 stanzas of emptiness, and the wish-fulfilling treasury. Those are things that I personally should refer to, just get further clarification of this. Now, in reference to page 224, in the Zen Master Yongming Yaoshori's Mind Mirror, there is phenomenal level or relative level, ultimate level, relative truth, and ultimate truth. All virtues, non-virtues, suffering and happiness, cause and effect exist on a phenomenal level. None of them exist on the ultimate level. On the ultimate level, nothing can be attained. On the ultimate level, even the names of these things cannot be found. Kunchen Longchenpa and the schools of Vaibhashika and Santrantika share points to prove the non-arising of phenomena by reflecting the existence of the indivisible particle of matter and the indivisible moment of consciousness by observing whether the occurrence of a certain event has a duration of time. My understanding of the text, the answer is yes. It is proven that everything is divisible. Now, the following analogy is something that was easier for me to understand rather than the indivisible or divisible concept of matter. The analogy of viewing two people in relatively the same time. To the conscious awareness, it seems both of them are being recognized simultaneously as a single thought in a single moment of time. But it can actually be divided into two separate moments. Mental consciousness can only have one thought at a time. The two moments consist of the first, in which person A is recognized, the next in which person B is recognized. Recognizing person B can also be divided into 2 parts, 4 parts, 1,000 parts, and so on and so forth. So it can be divided. Once you understand that all phenomena are unattainable on the ultimate level and are illusory on the relative level, then you can conclude that you should not fear suffering, as it does not truly exist at all. Suffering is only a label fabricated by our dualistic mind and does not possess any intrinsic entity. And according to what we read on page 227, on the conventional level, we endeavor to transform suffering into enlightenment. On the ultimate level, the name of suffering cannot be found. What is there to be transformed? Although the study of the middle way, or through the study of the middle way, one can gain a true appreciation of the wisdom of Buddhism. And again, wisdom is knowledge applied through practice. So that may be considerably shorter than what anticipated, but that's what my summary of the text is. What do you think?
It's great. Covered everything that the text talks about. And and with good thinking, I think you're not only trying to understand it literally, but also trying to get the meaning. It's really wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, what I like is that it makes reference to many more texts and that for further study. Because to me personally, this is probably the most meaningful of all the lectures. To me, this is the true essence of Buddhism.
Very good.
Do you mind go back to that?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that was according to what we read on page 221.
What 220? Which page?
It's actually 221.
Yes.
221.
Yeah, 221, and it refers to the heart advice.
Oh,
Yes.
Shantantiva. Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
So
Pacifying tradition.
It's without explanation, it could be a little bit of unclear. I actually went to the Chinese version that I got, the original text of the Chinese version that I got the advice. Heart advice only appeared one time in the original text, so it's one of the teachings that was not further explained. That this Master Tenpe Nyima quoted or used. So that's just one other great work from one master that that is a like a combination or a compiled version of many good points, many advices. And then the pacifying is the chod. I think you've
Chod.
seen the Tibetan word at the previous license. That's
Yes.
the pacifying. This means there are many good points, many good peace instructions in the heart advice, and also there are some good teachings similar in the Chod tradition. But
Okay.
however, in this particular, the current context, Master Tenpe Nyima was just more following the Shantideva's teaching. I think that was it. There was no further explanation,
Okay.
and that's just
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
And what occurred to me really important is the fact that you know, it was stated that if you don't take heed of these fifth instructions, then you will never achieve happiness. You know, this is extremely important to internalize, to understand, right?
This translation of Chod, I'm not sure if, yeah, we may need to look at it
Yes.
also. I think the four courses of achievers, 西增怀诛, the first one should be pacifying. So shouldn't be the Chod in my
No.
term, but just have a little question mark here.
Okay.
We can leave it offline.
So
Is chod a way of pacifying? Or it's yeah, I guess it is a way to pacify, right? Because
But Chod itself,
when you face the enemy, you give
Chod
up.
itself is okay. I'll double check, because when I compare the four courses, Chod is more. Anyways, maybe my misunderstanding. I'll come back with.
Okay. Okay. There is something else, page 215, I think, about the Milarepa, what he says.
oh yeah. Yeah, and that's how, to me, it was a little bit contradictory, simply because Milarepa, you know, came to the conclusion. He stated, when all disillusions cease, the mind abides in happiness. So he achieved that. In doing so, he says, I'm not unhappy. Happiness is what I am. And within the happy mind, all things are happy. I feel happy with everything, as long as it is beneficial for all beings. Now, I think that is the point right there that the text is trying to portray to us, is that although he feels happy, it is as long as it's beneficial for all beings, you know. And so I think that's the point, personally, that I didn't take heed of. You know, I got stuck on the fact that he states that his mind may fluctuate due to circumstances, you know, and I found that to be contradictory to what he mentioned earlier, that you know, regardless of the circumstances, he is happiness.
I see your point, but I think
Yeah.
this paragraph is from Milarepa, right? He
Yeah.
talked about his realization status, but Khenpo, when he explains about it, he comment on himself. He said, I cannot say I have attained such high level of realization. And then he did say,
Okay,
whether I die, this is about himself. He says,
yeah, he's
yeah,
no longer quoting Milarepa at that
that's
point.
right. Khenpo is
Okay.
commenting on his own situation. Very
Yeah, exactly.
calmly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
But again, the point is that you know, the main thing is that it's to benefit all sentient beings. That's the main reason. right? For
Yes,
that, yeah,
he
for
says
that
his
state.
resolution will never change, but
Yes.
he has to manage. Well, on the surface, on the surface, right? And when he needs to manage the whole thing, the whole academy, and including everything else.
Mhm.
On the surface, I can only say on the surface, but I think it's a way he express his companies.
Mhm.
But also think about happy is what I am. That is so wonderful.
Yes. Yeah. It's not, I'm not unhappy. Yeah. Happiness is what I am. That's
Yeah.
his true existence. And yeah, if you think of the story of Milarepa, the fact that he became a sorcerer in retaliation to his uncles, took away his fortune, and through his journey. I mean, this is it's quite incredible that happiness is what he is. Transformation, definitely.
Yeah. Any other people have any comments over here? Anything more to comment or to add? What wind energy was one point I like to explain a little bit. In the Tibetan Buddhism system, and so I think it's probably tradition goes back a little older. Wind energy, it's a little bit, it's kind of related to air, but not air per se. It's pervasive everywhere, about like kind of committing and communicating between body and the mind. And the Tibetans, if they say somebody is at a high wind, it means this person is upset, that is distressed, or worried or stressful or something like that. If a person have balanced wind, means this person is very very really is peaceful and happy and things like that. So that's a kind of a wind energy. And it's also used in Tibetan medicine, I believe. So
Yeah,
happiness
it's
always
huge.
come
It's
within. Yeah.
no, I'm glad you're
Oh
explaining,
yeah.
but this is also part I thought when I should share or have a discussion or cause attention because this is different than or maybe Amica, all those analytics and analysis. It's a little mystery, but those who with confidence should really look at it. So this passage, this teaching, this part of the teaching is very, anyways, very amazing. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we can essence of 100 instructions. I was not sure about what part of Shantideva was, but I was thinking about entering the Bodhisattva's way. Um, so what all about that one was like a pacifying, because the entire book, the way of the Bodhisattva, is all about the bodhicitta, generating bodhicitta, how to grow it, how to stabilize it, and so on and so forth. So if I'm not 100% sure what it says here, but if I have to make a guess, I would think the bodhicitta probably is the best way for pacifying if we give up self and just do everything with other people's benefit in mind. Maybe that is the best pacifying method. I don't know, my guess only.
So
Um,
I think I posted definition
oh,
of the four activities as well as the chart. There's still a difference. So maybe just yeah.
yeah, okay.
Do not be misled by the word pacify.
Yeah, the 4 activities.
Yeah.
The 4 activities of bodhisattvas. And then the last part of the the text talk about the absolute truth, and then use quite a bit of the Buddhism logic and the Milarepa rationale. I think it will be a little hard if we have not studied it before. And if you look at this root stanza of the middle way, so anything cannot be produced from itself. This is the one extreme. One way to produce anything, any compounded sense, not from itself. It cannot be produced from anything else, and cannot be produced from both. When the condition allows that both come together, it cannot be produced that way, and it cannot be produced without a cause. So by itself, by something else, by both, or with not anything. So these are the four ways to produce sense, and they are step-by-step rationale about why one thing cannot produce from itself. Like I cannot produce myself, right? A baby cannot produce a baby. But I was thinking, actually, when I studied this, I was thinking, like when I grow human cells in the dishes, one cell can split into 2, grow into 2 cells. I was thinking to myself, so from one mother cell, you produce 2 daughter cells. This is produced from itself. But then I realized, no, this is not produced itself, because this mother cell have to duplicate everything, duplicate DNA, duplicate everything in the cell, and then split into 2. And these 2 cells, none of these 2 cells is this mother cell anymore. Think about the content is different, and even they carry a lot of similar characters, but they're not the same. So nothing can be produced from itself, cannot be produced from other things. Like very easy, like what a horse cannot give birth to a cow, something like that, right? But it's a little more than that. And the hardest part was cannot produce from both. Like we can plant a seed, and if the condition allows, the seed will grow into a seedling. You can say the seedling is produced from the right condition, from the seed and the proper soil and water and all that. In the relative truth, in the phenomenal level, that is true. But if you really go analyze that, the seedling, you can analyze whether the seed needs to be destroyed or it doesn't need to be destroyed in order to produce the seedling. And if the seed don't need to be destroyed for the seedling to be produced, and then the seed will forever stay in the seed format. The seedling will never be produced. If it needs to be destroyed, when the seed is destroyed, there is nothing remain and nothing can produce the seedling, right? So it's just like logic debating like that. If you go into analyze in very, very subtle details, you will see the sense really cannot be produced from both from both self and the other sense. And anything needs to be produced from a cause. If there's no cause, there is no, like we know that. So after this kind of analysis, then you would wonder, we see this entire physical world here, we think it is such kind of arising, production, and the existing of this sense, right? So then the middle way would, then people would ask, this is by Lakdula, by the way. The people would ask Lakdula, what do we see here? What is the sense that we actually see? And then that comes with the mind-only school, and but mind-only school says whatever we see is just a illusion, delusion, whatever, right? It's not, by such analysis, if nothing can be really generated, nothing can really arise, but then we see this sense here, what do we see really? What are the things we actually see? You got to ask yourself.
I think one thing we have to take into account is that, Khenpo has spent over 20 years studying this. So we are benefiting from his synopsis, from his quick explanation, right? But, in order to understand it to its full extent, we have to put the time in to study, in accordance to the references that he made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, Khenpo, once people ask Khenpo what is his favorite subject, and he answered without hesitation. He says, "What's the middle way?"
Yes.
Because it really requires wisdom for me, it's hard for me to understand. And I can imagine how for him, he can easily to teach. So my impression when I studied this text, when I read and I listened to his teaching, I thought, okay, I kind of get it. But then when I was trying to tell other people, and so that I realized, no, I cannot say this. I don't know what I'm saying.
And but that's why it was easier for me to understand the analogy that involved seeing two people, relatively at the same time, and how that could be that is divisible, into the different realms. So, but otherwise, when he was explaining about shooting the arrow through the rays of light, I mean, that was a little. My first introduction to this concept, it was hard for me to conceptualize, to understand that,
Yeah.
but it's worth, like you said, it's worth reading over and over again in order to absorb the true meaning.
Exactly.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I think this part and recognize person A, person B, just meaning our consciousness, well, our ability to recognize without that's by the power of the consciousness, right? So in the early Buddhism school, they think the consciousness can be divided forever, which actually means the time.
Yes.
So, but in they think that the two undivisible element, one is the time, one is the matter, the matter particles, and the time segments. So these are the two fundamental elements for basic school to construct the entire world. But then Milarepa would say, no, that is not the case, because they can refute the existence of both, either one. So into nothingness, they cannot just simply say the undivisible time cannot exist, and that the undivisible matter particle also cannot exist by analysis.
Well, like you were saying, Fang, it's by observing whether the occurrence of a certain event has a duration of time, and so I think the conclusion is the answer is yes, it does have a duration of time, right?
Come to the realization that this is not the case. There's so-called indivisible moment of consciousness does not, in fact, exist. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is by the analysis of Milarepa, or the mind-only school, and it's a little bit touching about mind, the consciousness, and there's a conceptual mind somewhere. say when our eyes see things, when we hear sound, and I don't remember where in this text somewhere. So, in the very beginning, when somebody touch us, when we see something, it's just it's by the direct consciousness we grab that something, that image, that something. We don't really that the first moment we grasp the object is direct to object grasping. But when our mind, the consciousness gets involved, then our mind will say, oh, this is my computer, that is somebody else, something, or somebody touch you, you feel happy, you feel disgust. All this a touch is merely a touch. When your mind gets into action, which that mind is called conceptual mind, the mind will decide it's good, it's bad, I like it, I don't like it, and so on and so forth. So the conceptual mind, once it's involved, we distort a lot of things.
One thing that was brought to my attention recently by a couple of people that I consider to be knowledgeable and somewhat enlightened is the way we visualize things, the way we see things, you know, and they said to me, you know, you got to stop looking with your eyes, right? You have to start looking with your heart. And eventually, once you develop a certain enlightenment, then you're able to see with your third eye. You know? And it was interesting when I went to China, went to one temple, and I saw a statue of a Buddha. It was a replication of a female Buddha. She had an eye in the middle of her forehead, but she also had eyes in the middle of her hands, in the palm of her hands.
Yeah.
And so that was interesting. I think that's what they're trying to portray to me, is that if we rely solely on what we see through our eyes, then we are opening ourselves to misinterpretation, right? And
yeah, you can say that way, because eyes can be deceptive.
Yeah.
But
our
that's
eyes
why we
being
call this word an illusory word.
illusory, yeah. But I think our eyes being directly connected to our mind, and like you were saying, if we use only our minds, then we're putting ourselves in a vulnerable state. Susceptible to
conceptual mind is
susceptible to misinterpretation.
Yeah, we need to be aware. Yeah. I think there was this part, the crow and the cuckoo. This was talking about the negative when foolish people seek happiness from outside, right?
Yeah. And then when the crow realized that the cuckoo had disappeared,
I think
away.
we have this. Do we have this in the questions? Maybe you can put into the.
Yeah, let's go to the question. Yeah. Fine.
Otherwise, there's not enough time.
Yeah.
See, looking at the 7 types of benefits we can gain from transforming suffering, which one do you think resonate with you the most? Okay, well, there's several. I think, using the suffering to purify harmful action, so that will make my mind and characters be more peaceful and gentle. This is one of it. Like before, when my work is really stressful, very negative, and sometimes it's really very hard to be peaceful and gentle. But after using using the suffering to, well, I like this one, I think I benefit a lot. And then the second thing is become more open and also easier to get along. I think these two can combine because I try to using the suffering to train in compassion. And I'm more, while also using the suffering, cherishing others more than myself, more than yourself, more than myself. So this, I think also benefit a lot. Whatever is okay for me, I'm not that difficult, you know, like before, when I was in Tibetan area, right, the most thing bugging me actually is the toilet, because it's very difficult to find clean toilet. I remember they said there's a joke, when you're looking for a toilet, there's a house, and you ask the people, oh, where's the toilet? They said, oh, except that house, everywhere is toilet. So it's really, yeah. So, but I think using this, like more open, you know, accept the different style life, and it's much more easier. And then another one is the I gain more courage, become more courageous, right, and confident.
Righteous.
Yeah, okay, because the three Jews settle in my mind, and I realize I'm more and more practicing everything is impermanent. So and I feel not depends on outside, more inside. So no matter money, person, relationship, or work, everything cannot depends on. I depends on more the three Jews. So I become more confident because I have something back up all the time. So I think this four points is more I get a benefit. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else want to share something about this?
Personally, 5 and 6 combined is the one that benefits me the most. That would be viewing suffering as beneficial. If you do that, then you are thankful for that opportunity for growth through that experience of suffering, and avoid being vulnerable and sensitive. This feeling is fueled by the false sense of entitlement. Now, I keep mentioning that simply because all my suffering comes from, personally, all my suffering comes from the sense of self. You know, I'm entitled to this, I deserve that, and whatever, with the absence of compassion and empathy for others. You know, and so to me, the meaning of true love is compassion, and unconditional compassion and empathy for others. So in absence of that, then what is left is myself. And so, I mean, that to me is what 5 and 6 means, is you know, when I suffer, what is the lesson behind that suffering, right? You know, I injured my knee, and now I had to slow down, and to me there was a reason behind it. You know, Buddha gave me a lesson, basically. Hey, you're injured your knee. Now you're going to have to do some inner work within, spiritual work within, rather than being completely absorbed by all your outside influences. And also I had to relinquish control, because when I'm doing all the other stuff, I'm being completely in control. I'm a control freak. And so when I wasn't able to move around, I had to accept and be thankful for help from my wife and other sources. So there was a lot of reasons for that suffering, you know, and so I had to be thankful for it rather than resentful, or rather than feeling sorry for myself. So it's constant.
very happy for you that you can look at it this way. This is great.
Well, I had to, and I had probably about a week of contemplating why it happened rather than
Very good. Well, I think this is the right time.
exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay. I think this is somehow all these 7 benefits are somehow interconnected in the part in the summarizing says like this one and this one looks quite connected. They're all kind of connected together. If we can really transform this attitude, the entire practice and the entire attitude towards the world can change, dramatically change. So
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, like 2 and 3 are very close together. And 5 and 6 to me personally. Right.
yeah, when we're open, I think when we're open, 1, 2, 3, when we're open, we can be peaceful because we're not upset by other people's maybe some seemingly foolish or stupid actions because we're open to all sorts of idea, flexible. We can also can easily get along with anybody because we can view the actions as what they intended to do the best, but they may not know better if they do something stupidly. Yeah, if we are open, more open, we can so everything will be within the scope of our practice, so we can have the courage and be confident, all that. And I think everything can be kind of connected together. Yeah,
Yeah, I want to share something about the last point, the 7th point. Our mind
please.
already content in the happiness born of inner peace.
Mhm.
I feel like probably like more people who are around my age. I realize everybody, even though they don't have money, they would down to go to bar to spend their money on like alcohol. It seems like it's pretty often, and it's really easy for you or me used to giving my happiness for like material happiness, for instance, like a cute object like I find on the flea market,
Mhm.
and or like a piece of clothing. Used to be having a lot of happiness depend on that. However, that really accumulate in the long term, like a lot of trouble that you have too much stuff, basically. And I realized like that actually did not become like a cause of happiness for most. They rather become like a cause of like another form of suffering. So after I feel like started like learning about this, like seek happiness from within, or like you realize like it's really not, your happiness is really not like dependent on anything like external of you. It's not about that. It could maybe help like temporarily in the long term, like in the slightly longer term, no, not at all. It's the opposite. So yeah.
It's great. One thing that was brought to my attention, and I'm finding that it is true, is and of course you look at the 3 sufferings, the 3rd suffering being of your environment or things that happen to you, let's say even physically, is when you get a physical ailment, it's revealing something else, within that needs to be healed, right? And so anything, a sore neck, a sore side, whatever, in my particular case, my sore knee, it is revealing of something internal that you need to be looking at. And that's the reason for it. So like I was saying, looking at your suffering is beneficial in that way, I think is really helps me personally not to have any resentment towards it, and being more thankful for that a little bit of suffering.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can easily understand the young people, they want to go we all want to seek happiness, right?
Yeah.
But then if you go to the bar and go drink alcohol or get a piece of beautiful clothes, that happiness, I really like what she said, it's more like a suffering than real happiness.
Mhm.
This is so well said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like actually, you know, drinking causes so much issue on your physical health. Like your liver can be so damaged, and you
Yeah.
can be like, yeah, like you would not know, then you cannot fall asleep. You know, a lot of people around me are a little like that. That I was like, please, can you stop drinking? And they're like, oh, we drink much less now. I'm like, great. You know, yeah, I feel very
Yeah.
sad for like this generation, and I feel like the people around me, like the addiction to substance, it's much more. I mean, I used to have that kind of addiction, but I realize like people are really like addicted, like for instance, like a vape, like, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes people just look for happiness in the wrong place by the wrong way, and that
Yeah,
without
yeah,
knowing it. So it's just too bad.
yeah, yeah.
Does, and it resonates with me in many ways. One in particular was you're talking about material things and purchasing things, to give you happiness. I came to a realization a long time ago, even before I was introduced to Buddhism. I came to the realization that it's human nature that we purchase something and in a very short time we're not satisfied with it anymore. We need to be purchasing something else. And so in my particular case, it's a motorbike. I had the most beautiful motorbike I can imagine, and I knew that in a period of about 6 months, if I wasn't careful, I wasn't going to be satisfied with that. And there are people that fall into that trap. And so they trade it in, they get another motorcycle, trade in their car, they get into something else, always new, new, new. And so because of my realization of that, I really appreciated what I had rather than, constantly getting something new. But the other thing you were mentioning is drinking and drugs and everything else. Well, I lived in the 70s and that was my teenage years. And so I can really relate to that. Everybody I knew was very
Right now,
into.
nothing changed too much. Like,
No,
yeah,
it's funny how history repeats itself. But it took me a long time, and finally I came to the conclusion that reality maybe is something I should be trying rather than just following the crowd. And so um, anyways, I just thought I'd mention that what you were talking about really resonates with what I had experienced. Buddhism is the way. The Dharma is the way.
Great. Let's move on to the next question.
why will the suffering of anxiety vulnerable? Um, I think for me, um, I think I made a mistake that I read lecture 9 instead of lecture 8. So if it's like just answering from my own perspective but not quoting from the lecture, I feel probably that's not okay.
That's okay.
That's
Please.
okay. Um,
It's precious.
so I feel like the second part, it's probably easier for me to answer. What's your suffering about misfortune will vanish on their own. So I think that's a lot of people's mindset when they see suffering. They're like, oh, this is normal and this would eventually goes away. And even just like not trying to do anything or like change the mindset, or just like developing much more different like coping mechanism, like bad coping mechanism, for instance, towards it. um so I think it's not a very good way of developing like a bad coping mechanism towards it. And we should be able to realizing the true faith, the true what's behind our suffering and why we suffer from that cause, and able to rethink or evaluating like what is why, like um I don't know. And the first part, um, um, is there anything? Oh, misfortune vanish on their own. Okay. Oh, that's actually a little part inside this. Oh, well. What page you're on right now?
204.
Oh, 204.
203,
You can
204,
203 to
second
204, you
203.
can.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think this part is on page 219.
What?
219.
Yeah.
Oh,
See the
290.
Isn't it in
yes.
204 that if my
Yeah, I
class-
saw it on mine here.
That's
It's
because-
203.
203.
203.
203, yeah.
Yes, because
So
like the
if-
soldiers who lost their weapons, but even misfortunes like illness will, as a lose, vanish on their own.
Mm.
Go with the negative influences of Mara.
I see it. I see it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. If we are able to transform suffering, we will no longer be tormented by anxiety and irritation. Consequently,
Yes.
other kinds of suffering, such as slander, humiliation, will fade away, and those would cause us harm would be like soldiers who have dropped their weapon to the ground and can no longer use their gun and knives to defeat us. What's more, all misfortune, whether they be illness, negative influences, Mara, or other, will become powerless and vanish on their own. Illness is actually related to our state of mind. If we stay calm and strong, even we are in hospital, we won't be scared by any diagnosis. Instead, we'll be quite at ease, even if we are seriously ill. It is even possible when confronted by such peaceful attitude, illness will be vanished on their own. So it's really, I think it's really important to having that kind of mindset of able to transform our suffering and no longer being bothered by all of these emotion, suffering, and irritation. That everything external seems like would harm us, but actually, if we're able to find the thing that's already within us and able to transform all of it and not able to be affected by the outside,心灵自然分离. um it's it's saying also it's as a matter of fact, being strong and perseverant is an indispensable quality of a noble being. It's quite normal for anyone to encounter many kind of negativity in the course of achieving their life or career goals. Facing those obstacles, people of great inner strength will never give up nor waver from their highest intentions. But for those who are not strong-minded, it's easy to be enthusiastic early in their practice, but give up quickly after being faced with certain kinds of obstacles. So I feel like this part talks about this a little bit in a way too.
Yeah, the horse too. I think I did a wrong math. 207.
207.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
207,
207.
I like this also. Yeah, but
Yeah.
So, oh, okay. Oh, be
this.
eradicated.
I think this is a very
Mental afflictions can be eradicated only through one's practice rather than through one's view. Establishing a certain view means to only have an intellectual understanding, but not a personal experience or realization of the teaching. So we really need to like putting the practice into our much deeper, like into like a instinctive act rather than only just like knowing about it.
And I think this negative spirits, this part also belongs to the same section.
The 208,
No, just the root text.
the
This is
root
Yeah.
text.
horses and donkeys part.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Horses
again-
and donkeys are with swords on their back are an easy prey for a scavenging bird. Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure. People who are prone to fear are easy victim to negative spirits, but not those whose character is stable and strong.
Yes, that's it.
Should I continue read the part that's like underneath the root text as well?
You can just talk about your
Oh, my own understanding.
own understanding. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like when you're very vulnerable and always like, oh, am I getting hurt? Then you must gonna get hurt or you must get like damage. I don't know, like in personal like romantic relationship, if you started is that a good example? If you started a good like a romantic relationship with a lot of fears, you're like, oh, then of course that would happen. That's for me, in my personal experience. In my yeah, I think yeah, that definitely happened. As well as if you're always anxious and afraid of something could happen. Like for instance, I would say like it's in between my two cats. Like two cats, they're both a little bit anxious, and one cat's like sees like the cat is anxious and afraid of that cat might hurt him, so he might like start like hurting another cat first, so they start fighting. It's kind of like projection towards projection. So like, oh wow, I think that's an example too in that case.
I have a note here. We'll come back to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
About relationship over here.
Oh, sorry, your relationship. Oh yeah.
I have one thing to say over here about the weakness. The crows, the horses and donkeys has a saucer on the back and a easy place for scavenger birds, because the birds can see like the wound, so they can want to peck on the wound to have their food, right?
Mhm.
So about the negative spirits, so ultimately we know these are coming from our own mind, right? But once our mind keeps strengthening on these negativities, you kind of perform a negative loop, just like Jasmine just said, projection on projection. Then just like the Buddha said in the Shwagami Sutra, then those negative spirits, they can actually take form and they can actually appeal. So our mind can create those things. Always be aware your negative thoughts, and once you recognize that and make a correction on that thought. I think it's very important. So when in the reality, in the relative truth level, phenomena level, they can exist, but in the ultimate level, in the middle level, it's kind of created by our mind, but then in the ultimate level, there's no such thing, right? If we understand these things at all levels, we know how to deal with them.
There's a lot of truth in what you say. It's brought to my attention that my habitual way of thinking, although I don't do it intentionally, the words I use, the words I can use, in conversation, manifests what I'm going to experience.
Exactly.
In this particular case, and my thoughts, that's why I really like it where it says that improper thoughts and deluded mindset is the root cause of all our physical and mental disorders, right? And a lot of times we're not aware of that because that's the only thing we know. That's the only way that we know how to converse, and that's why these teachings, bring it to our attention. And and then by practicing and being constantly aware of this, then we can correct this and minimize our suffering. The other thing I want to take into is what I mentioned, the fact that I said bodhisattvas of the first bhumi and above, they are they never abandon the three jewels, therefore they take delight in physical pain, that is, as it is endured for the sake of the three jewels. Right. So it gives them the opportunity to contemplate the three jewels through their suffering. Right. So that's another way of looking at it, rather than feeling sorry for yourself that you're suffering. The same thing gives you opportunity. Right. So it was good that was brought up.
Yeah, we'll talk more on the fourth question about that part.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's go to the third question.
Non-believers don't believe in karma, and so they destroy monasteries without being afraid they're dharma protectors. Does this mean that if you don't believe in karma, then you can do whatever you want without taking the consequences? It's interesting.
Because
I think
Alex did mention during the revolutionary time, Cultural Revolution, some people destroyed monasteries, even the Dharma protectors cannot drive them away.
And you can do whatever you want without taking the consequences. I think that non-believers don't necessarily believe in karma. They'd be pretty foolish not to believe in cause and effect. Cause and effect, I think, is a concept that even non-believers or non-Buddhists can relate to. And so if you destroy something, you're going to have to pay the consequences no matter how you look at it. So even if you don't understand what the statues are in front of the monastery, you shouldn't cross that line. You should, as a member of society, know that there's going to be consequences to whatever you do. That's one of the first things that people understand when the concept of karma is discussed, is cause and effect. So no, it doesn't mean that if you don't believe in karma, you can go ahead and destroy monasteries or put forth any harm to anybody else. There's going to be consequences.
Yeah, no one can escape the consequence. And
I think
the karma is a universal law, right? So
I think that's something that's discussed, even with non-believers and with other religions. It's cause and effect. And of course, as we learn more about the Dharma, then we realize there's two karma. There's a karma that you inherit, that for the most part, we have to reverse the negative parts of that. But there's also the ongoing cause and effect karma. And I think for the most part, people in the world are aware of that, and they know that. I think people that are destroying mosques and they're destroying temples and things like that, they're doing it through fear. They're doing it through misunderstanding, they're doing it because they feel personally endangered with whatever misconception they have, and so that's where
So you do think they need to take the consequence, but it seems like they are not really facing any consequences, right? They still did whatever they want to do.
No, I think that they do. We don't see it, but I think these people are they're in extreme pain. I think, mentally, I think they're suffering as well. I really do.
During that special time, people's education, they think that the Buddhism belief is like superstitious. is something really bad and does not go along with, this communist idea, which is based on the materialism, right? Because it's based on Marxism. So they view it as like an anti-revolution. So they are very justified to destroy monasteries. But however, that doesn't mean they don't have to take the consequence. So the karma doesn't manifest right away. It's not like you cut your skin, your flesh, and the blood come out right away, right?
Yeah.
The karma goes through previous life and the future lives. So we just don't see it, like you said, we don't see it. We don't see it maybe in this lifetime. Some we do see in this lifetime, some we don't. So everybody, whatever they do, whether they're a believer or non-believer, the law of cause and consequence is just a natural law. And that is not the law in stipulated by the Buddha. It's just it applies to everyone.
I think for some people that are really ignorant, this whole concept of consequences, they don't really care about. What I've been told, many many years ago as a child and whatever, is that if you do something wrong, you're going to be punished tenfold. It's better to be punished now than in the future, because in the future you're going to be punished tenfold for what you've done now.
In the sutras, they always say if you curse somebody as like a dog or something, and then you take rebirth 500 lifetimes as a dog.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's true. The karma, if you don't purify that, it can't be intended to proliferate.
There are a lot of non-believer sayings and so on. One of the biggest ones that I came to conclusion to, my friends and I many years ago, is what goes around comes around. Simple
Yeah.
as that. That is the law
Yeah.
of the universe. What goes around comes around. If you do something
Yeah.
good, you will get good. If you do something bad, you are definitely going to, and if it's not now, it's going to be later when you least expect it. What goes around comes around, right?
Great. Okay, we need to move on to the next question.
Where will you go if you want to seek happiness? Why? What's the analogy of crow and cocoon tells us? So I think I would like stay home, practice Dharma. That actually would like I read and I practice. That's probably gives me the most happiness. And also if I'm able to share like the practice with my friend gives me the most happiness. And if I ever go somewhere, I probably will go to some like really good tempos that will give me happiness. I think it's either within or either like if I go to some physical tempo that I will be able to like stay there for a while. That would give me happiness for sure.
So let me ask you this question. When you go to temple, so
Uh-huh.
by seeing the temple, you feel happy, or just how can by going temple makes you happy?
Okay, so that's actually another very interesting thing. I live in Japan for like half a year. It was in Kyoto. So the only thing I did like gives me the most happiness was just going to different tempos.
Mm.
So then I realized like that's actually not good if you just go to temple, but rather than like not practicing. So right now what I mean by going to temple is able to stay and maybe like observe what people are doing and able to learn from the sangha of what they are doing, their daily practice, and able to like adapt their like routine like to me, because I probably used to liking the forms of the temple rather than like the actually what people are doing there. So
So do you think where does your happiness come from? From the temple
No, from the
how you
Dharma,
feel.
from the Dharma, and also from practicing the Dharma, and as well cultivating my own mind to constantly like being like stable and happy. That's the thing I'm saying.
Very good, very good.
Yeah,
It,
yeah.
the title is here.
From within. Yeah. And for the second question, I mean it's here as that question, right? Like, what's the analogy of crow and cocoon tells us? Sometimes, you know, what you want from another person is really you can be found by yourself, like within yourself. That's like through a lot of relationship that's trying to tell me you don't. I don't know. Is that too much to talk about like personal relationships? Sometimes you're really liking that person because you see like a version of themselves like in your own mind. It's a purely like a projection. I think, yeah, yes, yeah. Yeah, never find their true love. I think true love is really like, I don't know. That did not happen to me, so I cannot say anything about it. Oh yeah, I can read this though.
Yeah, you can read this paragraph here.
There's some okay. Contentment in Buddhism is more than a feeling of satisfaction brought about the ownership of material possession. It is a feeling that arises when one is free from all desires. For example, if you can develop a feeling of contentment in your relationship, then regardless of whom you spend your life with or who you come in contact with, you will always feel happy and peaceful. On the other hand, those who are continually asking for more in their relationship will seldom be satisfied, but will feel continual sadness and will never stop hoping and dreaming for someone better to appear in their life. There are some famous pop stars that frequently start new relationships, but can never seem to find their true love. Instead, they suffer the pain of one breakup after another. The same goes for status and position. People in the lower position are always hoping to be promoted to a higher position. However, without a contented mind, position and status will never become the cause of their happiness. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that will not be the cause of the happiness. That will be the cause of suffering. Then you will know, oh, I should make change.
So, I don't know. We don't have a lot of time. Yeah, I think a content person can easily find happiness in their life. So no matter who he or she with, his or her own contentment, happiness can be contagious to other people, right? But if this person is not satisfied, is not happy with himself, within himself, then you can imagine the relationship can suffer from this person's all sorts of unhappiness or desires. So I really like this sentence. It is a feeling, the happiness. It is a feeling that arises when one is free from all desires. You can still you don't have to have the desires, but you can still be in a good relationship. And it's even better. I don't know if it makes sense to anyone.
Khenpo said in 210, the wise seek happiness from within. So always see their happiness and well-being within the mind. They will not depend on anything external, which means that nothing whatsoever will be sentient beings or anything else can do them any harm. Yeah, I think it's pretty nice. And even when they die, this attitude will follow, so that they will always be free and in control.
Exactly. not from our external, or not from external materials, status, money, or another person. It's from within. This is really important. If somebody, young people, are looking for a relationship, you have to be happy. To be happy with yourself first.
Explain what is absolute truth. Okay, I think Campbell spent time, and when we went over explaining the Milarepa, all these tools, analytical tools, to come to the conclusion that the world or the whatever phenomenon that is appearing in front of us is actually not true, or or not actually true. If we use some of the Buddhist term, the absolute truth is a union of luminous or luminosity and emptiness, right? When we study Milarepa, the middle way, there is more an emphasis on analysis on this emptiness side. And then there are other teachings that was telling us on the luminosity side, like the Buddha nature, Uttara Tantra. Basically, if we use a day-to-day example, I think one of the best that works for me is a dream. This is a dream. It's not completely dark, because when people talking about emptiness, many can go to that one-sided emptiness, or mere emptiness that is almost like dark. We're dead and things like that. But actually, things just appear. Nothing should even change, even what is in front of us today. And then, but it's like a dream. The problem comes from we thought that's true. Then we go to fight with the dream, and no matter, we are, or because of greed or because of hatred, you dislike, you want to get rid of it. You like it, you want to get more, or things like that. When in a dream, but when in a dream, and in the meantime, we realize it's a dream, imagine how relaxed that can be, right? And also, there is a one more layer of meaning. When in a dream, you realize with the dream, you can even play with the dream, because who made the dream? It's yourself, right? Imagine how big that is. That is almost like, not almost like, that is more than you're a God, right? Imagine that you made the whole world. Anyways, when you're a God, this is more relaxed, a lot more relaxed. So I think realization of, depending on the level or where we are, usually we start with study, and then contemplation and meditation. Meditation is really internalized. Really know without any doubt that you are God. I mean, just with quote, right, with quotation mark, more than that. But but sometimes we're at the phase of studying, which is also very important. So anyways, when even having some slight idea of this emptiness or ultimate truth, that's of course is a very absolute way, ultimate way of eradicating all these sufferings. Okay, 3 minutes.
Very well said. Explain the emptiness in 3 minutes.
That was great.
I just have one comment about this Zen master. His name is Yongmin Yan Shou, Mind Mirror. So Yongmin means literally in Chinese means forever light. Yan Shou means extended life. Okay, forever light, extended life. That means Amitabha Buddha. forever light, the boundless light and the boundless life. That means Amitabha or Amitayas, literally. Yeah. Okay, I think we are good. Any more questions to discuss? We are almost on time today.
Mhm.
Just as all the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas dedicate merit, so likewise I also dedicate all merit to the cause of enlightenment of all sentient beings. By this accumulation of merit, may I obtain all sin omissions, and may all faults be defeated. The whirling turbulent waves of birth, aging, sickness, and death. From this ocean of samsara, may I liberate beings. Just as the Bodhisattva Manjushri attained omniscience and Samantabhadra too, all these merits now are dedicated to train and follow in the footsteps. As all the victorious Buddhas of past, present, and future praise dedication as supreme, so now I dedicate all these roots of virtue for all beings to perfect good actions. Om Ahom Bandaguru Bama Siddhi Home. Om Ahom Bandaguru Bama Siddhi Home. Om Ahom Bandaguru Bama Siddhi Home.